Have you ever felt that someone around you makes you feel drained, anxious, or like something just isn't right, even though they always seem perfect and friendly? That might not just be a vague feeling. Some individuals carry such toxic energy that they can manipulate your mind, control your emotions, and damage your mental well-being without you even realizing it. In today's video, based on behavioral psychology analysis and real-life observations, we will uncover the 5 key signs of people who have a devilish nature hiding among us. Watch until the end to understand how to identify and stay away from them for your peace of mind and mental health. If you find this content helpful and want to protect yourself more from invisible negative influences, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you won't miss the upcoming videos. After the love bomb phase ends, the truth begins to emerge, and often, it's not as beautiful as you once thought. That phase of excessive flattery and attention is not genuine affection, it's a manipulation tool. When they see that you've trusted them, that you're attached, they begin to twist everything in their favor. The strange thing is, you won't see it clearly at first. It starts with light-hearted jabs, harmless-sounding advice that makes you doubt yourself, or times when they suddenly disappear to make you feel scared and dependent. This is the classic tactic of psychological manipulators, and psychologists call it gaslighting. People with a devilish nature don't need to shout in your face or sabotage things publicly. All they need to do is plant seeds of doubt in your mind, little by little. A phrase like, "You're just imagining things," or, "I never said that," can be repeated to the point where you start questioning your own memories and emotions. When you lose the ability to trust yourself, you'll depend on the reality they provide, and that's when they have complete control over you. But the cruelest part here is, they don't do this by accident. They know exactly what they're doing. These individuals may never be formally diagnosed with a personality disorder, but their behavior perfectly matches what psychologists describe as manipulative, controlling, and lacking empathy. They read your emotions not to connect, but to exploit. They find your weaknesses not to help, but to turn them into manipulation tools. And the scary part is, most of them do this without feeling guilty. That's why it's crucial to recognize these signs as early as possible. You don't need to be a psychology expert to protect yourself. You just need to know how to listen to your intuition and understand that genuine affection never makes you feel small or doubt yourself. If you've ever felt that someone in your life made you run to maintain their affection, fearing you'd lose them even when they hurt you, this might be the time to ask yourself serious questions. Don't leave yet. The next sign will reveal a dangerous strategy that devilish individuals use to isolate you from those who truly love you. And when you realize it, you may look back on past relationships with an entirely new perspective. When the initial attention is withdrawn, it's not a sign of a normal cooling off in the relationship. It's a control tactic. This is the most dangerous phase. When you start doubting yourself instead of questioning the other person, you wonder if you did something wrong. You begin to try harder to restore the connection you thought was real. But the truth is, this relationship was never really based on sincerity. It was designed as a psychological game, one you didn't even know you were playing. The next thing you need to understand is that isolation doesn't come openly. It's disguised as concern. They don't directly say, "Don't hang out with your friends." Instead, they plant doubts. "I'm not sure if they really care about you." They don't stop you from talking to family, but they make you feel guilty. "You spend more time with them than with me." Over time, you start cutting off connections with those who could remind you of your true self. And when you realize it, your circle has been reduced to just them, the one who now controls your entire emotional world. In psychology, this is high-level emotional manipulation, and not everyone realizes they are the victim. The reason is that they don't show toxicity right from the start. They charm, listen, and even make you feel like you're the most important person in the world. That is the weapon. An overtly malicious person is easy to guard against, but someone who cares for you, for love, while controlling you is much harder to spot. So, what should you do when you notice these signs? First, take a step back. Observe how quickly the relationship is progressing. Are you losing your personal boundaries? Are your old relationships being replaced by their constant presence? And most importantly, do you still feel free to be yourself? If the answer is not sure, then you need to clarify things. Because devilish individuals often leave you confused with no clear evidence, just a deep feeling in your gut that something is wrong. And you should trust that feeling. Stay tuned for the next part. I'll share a more subtle sign, where these people begin manipulating the truth, distorting your reality to make it impossible for you to distinguish what's right and what's wrong. Once that happens, regaining control over your emotions and perceptions will be much harder. You're not dreaming. Some people truly have the ability to make you feel drained after every encounter without any shouting or conflict. That is the dangerous power of emotional vampires. They don't bite you, they talk. They don't invade through brute behavior. They use exhaustion to gradually wear you down. A prolonged complaint, an endless victim story, a demanding look, and just after 30 minutes, you leave feeling as if you've just carried the weight of their entire life on your shoulders. The danger is that they often appear in the form of someone weak who needs help. And you, with your kind heart and empathetic spirit, think you're doing the right thing by listening and supporting them. But over time, you begin to realize these conversations are no longer a two-way connection. You become their emotional trash can. You're expected to always be there, to understand, to empathize, while you no longer have space to breathe. They could be your new best friend, a family member, or a coworker who always seems to need you. And the dangerous part is that they don't intentionally harm you, at least not in a way you can put a name to. But it's the subtlety of it that drains you. You can't react because they didn't do anything wrong. You feel guilty for wanting to set boundaries. You're manipulated by feelings of responsibility and pity. This is when you must remember one crucial thing. Compassion doesn't include sacrificing your mental health so others can feel okay. If after every meeting you feel confused, depleted, needing recovery, this is not a nourishing relationship. It is draining you. Emotional vampires don't have to be the bad guys, but their impact is just as dangerous. And if you're not careful, you'll be the one who always feels guilty for wanting to rest. Pay attention to how you feel after every interaction. It's the most accurate compass. Do you feel at peace, energized, or exhausted and lost? Trust that signal. And remember, you have the right to set boundaries without needing to apologize. The next part will reveal an even more subtle manipulation tactic, one where your reality is distorted and you don't even know it. If the first sign made you fascinated, the second made you exhausted, the third will make you question your own perception, one of the most dangerous psychological blows. Get ready. This is when you start to realize that these conversations are not just exchanges of ideas, they are emotional battlegrounds. Emotional vampires don't need weapons. They use words, expressions, and subtle psychological tactics to drain your energy. An innocent question, a waiting look, or an apparently insignificant story can make you feel extremely tense. You feel pushed into a conflict you weren't prepared for. And then you start to feel guilty. Did you misunderstand? Did you overreact? These questions swirl around your head, trapping you in an emotional whirlwind. And you can't understand why you feel so drained. They didn't do anything outrageous, but this feeling keeps resurfacing after every encounter. Sudden headaches, unexplained fatigue, or vague thoughts that keep spinning in your head. That's your body sending out a warning signal. When you feel stress for no apparent reason, or emptiness after conversations that weren't dramatic, that's a sign you're being drained of emotional energy. The manipulator doesn't just aim to hurt you, they make everything more complicated, creating purposeful disorder. Every word, every action has the purpose of causing disruption in your life. Family arguments that never seem to end, work becoming more stressful than ever, and conversations that seemed harmless turning into unpredictable emotional waves. They can invade your most sensitive issues, bringing up disagreements you thought you had forgotten. Their goal is not to help. It is to stir things up in order to feed the emotional energy they need. And just when you think you're starting to understand, they use an even more sophisticated tactic: triangulation. This is one of their most dangerous tricks. They never directly create conflict between you and them. Instead, they make you confront someone else, and then sit back, watching you struggle with the pain they've created from behind. This is how they trigger double the emotional energy, pulling you and the other person into a battle where neither of you knows who the real victim is. These emotional vampires live off chaos, and the danger is that you won't realize the manipulation until it's too late. If you're not aware, you won't just lose energy, you'll lose your inner peace as well. And the real pain begins here, when you realize that it's not you, but the people around you, who are making you feel lost. Emotional vampires don't just want your attention, they want to own it. And once they have your attention, they begin to do something very subtle and dangerous, isolating you from those who can clearly see what's going on. They don't just attack you directly, but quietly manipulate you, gradually distancing you from important relationships. You may not realize it immediately, but they are planting seeds of doubt in your mind. Phrases like, "Are you sure that friend really supports you?" Or, "Maybe you should spend less time with them," slowly create a subtle rift between you and the people you care about. This is not accidental. They are creating an environment where you feel increasingly unable to trust the people around you. They know that once you are isolated, it will be easier for them to control your thoughts and emotions. Every time you try to share your joy or accomplishments with those around you, they downplay the value of those achievements, even turning them into their own success. They will redirect the attention to themselves, making you feel like you're competing with the very people you love. This creates an inexplicable feeling, as if you're standing in the middle of a battle, unable to see the enemy. This process is extremely subtle. You might think they are simply worried about you, but in reality, they are exploiting that concern to control and separate you from those who could help you see what is really happening. They don't just make you lose trust in those around you, but they want you to trust only them. Once you're in this isolated state, you become more vulnerable than ever, and they can easily nurture negative emotions, making you doubt yourself. To protect yourself from this isolation, you need to stay alert. Recognize these small but worrying signs and always maintain connections with those around you. The people you truly care about, those who are willing to help you when you need it, will be the compass to guide you back on the right path. Pay attention to how you feel after each interaction with these individuals. If you feel confused and unsettled instead of nurtured, that's when you need to stop and ask yourself whether this relationship is truly healthy. Emotional vampires don't just try to cause disruption in your relationships, they actively do everything to separate you from your support network. By subtly creating small gaps, cracks in relationships, they can widen them into insurmountable chasms. A minor disagreement with family or an awkward conversation with friends suddenly becomes proof that those around you have never truly been on your side. And over time, you find yourself increasingly isolated, not only because you've created the distance yourself, but because the other person is manipulating your emotions, making you feel like you have no one left by your side. The tactics they use are incredibly devious and strategic. They will push you into endless emergency situations where they seem to need you, and you are the only one who can help. These crises, seemingly never-ending, will continually pull you away from other commitments and relationships. The other people in your life begin to fade into the background, and you gradually have to give up family gatherings and friend meetups to help them handle situations. You are being separated from everything that once brought warmth and support into your life. The scariest part is the subliminal messages they send to you. They don't just create a sense of crisis, they force you to make a difficult choice, either me or everyone else. And suddenly, you find yourself in a no-win situation, where maintaining relationships with the important people in your life becomes an act of betrayal. They make you feel that if you truly care about them, you must disregard everything else and give them your attention immediately, unconditionally. They begin to target your loved ones intentionally. People you once valued become controllers, your family becomes a threat, and your trusted mentor becomes outdated. They use relentless criticism, belittling remarks, and suspicion to make you view those around you in a distorted way. The positive qualities of these people are completely overlooked, and only their flaws are magnified. All they want is for you to fall into isolation, where they can maintain absolute control. This is their most powerful psychological tactic, distorting reality until isolation no longer feels like harm, but rather self-care. This makes you believe that withdrawing from all your loved ones, from relationships that once supported you, is the only way to protect yourself from the toxicity they've defined for you. But in reality, you are being separated from everything that could help you see what is truly happening. When someone enters your life and gradually begins to dominate every emotional space, you will feel like they are an indispensable part of your life. They are not just a friend, but a mentor, an emotional support, and even a source of validation for every thought and decision you make. This may sound warm and safe, but in reality, when they become the central figure in your world, you will begin to notice the narrowing of your relationships and your own perspective. The problem starts to arise when your world becomes limited to only those who have direct influence from them. Every aspect of your life, from conversations with friends and family to future plans, is filtered through their lens. You no longer have the natural reality checks from the people around you to compare and consider, and instead, you only see the world through a narrow and potentially manipulated lens. This can happen gradually and almost unnoticed until you realize that you no longer have the ability to challenge or critique anything. The isolation gradually becomes dangerous because it diminishes your ability to view things holistically. When there are no opposing viewpoints, you begin to feel that every thought and emotion of yours is correct, and everyone around you is just people who don't truly understand you. But in reality, this is merely their clever manipulation to control you indirectly. So, how can you protect yourself? Start by distinguishing genuine concern from possessiveness. A person who truly cares about you will never pressure you to cut off other important relationships in your life. They will honor the diversity of your relationships, instead of trying to make you believe that only they are the most important. Make maintaining your relationships with friends and family a non-negotiable priority in your life. Never forget that these people are your emotional oxygen, the ones always ready to listen, share, and provide support when you need it. A clear warning sign is when someone in your life always seems unhappy when you spend time with others. They will do whatever they can to make you feel like you are doing something wrong by building relationships outside of your relationship with them. Don't fall into this trap. Healthy relationships don't diminish your life. On the contrary, they expand it, helping you feel the richness and diversity of the connections you have. When you feel your life is reduced to only one relationship, that's a clear sign of manipulation. It's important to identify and address these signs early. If not, you might realize too late when isolation has made you feel too alone to seek help. Protect yourself now, and always remember that those who truly love and care for you will never ask you to sacrifice other relationships to maintain one with them. The fourth warning sign of manipulators is projection, a highly subtle yet extremely effective tactic for deceiving and making you feel hurt. Imagine someone constantly accusing you of lying when they themselves are the ones being dishonest, or claiming that you are manipulating them while they are actually pulling the emotional strings. This is not random, but a tactic with a very clear purpose. These manipulators are not just dishonest, they are using your mind against you. Projection is a powerful defense mechanism that allows them to avoid taking responsibility for their own bad behavior while shifting the blame onto you. It's like when they stand in front of a mirror and see their own flaws, mistakes, and bad actions reflected back at them, but instead of acknowledging their own faults, they point to you and attribute those things to you. This act not only protects them from facing their own wrongdoings but also serves as a preemptive strike to make you feel like you're doing something wrong, even though that's not the case. A simple example is when someone intends to betray your trust but begins to doubt you. They constantly check your phone, ask where you've been, or express doubts about your loyalty. In reality, this is a tactic to shift the blame for their own unreliability onto you. They deliberately cause emotional confusion, making you defend yourself against their unreasonable accusations and causing you to doubt yourself. The biggest problem with projection is that it forces you to constantly fight against things that aren't real. You find yourself having to explain and justify actions that were never wrong, and over time, this can lead to a form of gaslighting, a psychological phenomenon that makes you doubt your own reality. They don't just make you lose confidence, but they also make you feel like you're living in a world of lies and unfairness. What is particularly dangerous here is that projection may carry a kernel of truth, but it's not about you. The accusations they make inadvertently reveal their own fears, behaviors, and true intentions. So, even though you might not immediately recognize it, each accusation is a hint at what they are hiding, and they are the ones who truly need to face the truth. How can you protect yourself from these tactics? The key is to recognize and distinguish between baseless accusations and the actual truth. Once you understand projection, you will no longer be easily dragged into this psychological game. When you are repeatedly accused of actions you didn't commit, especially when there is no concrete evidence, this is not only unjust but also a clear sign of a psychological manipulation tactic. Manipulators use this tactic to create instability and doubt in your mind. They accuse you of being dishonest, unfaithful, or manipulative, while in reality, they are the ones engaging in these behaviors. These accusations are a way for them to hide their true intentions and actions. When these accusations continue to surface, they not only confuse you but also begin to seep into your thoughts. You start questioning whether you have really done something wrong. Are you really manipulating them without realizing it? Perhaps you have acted dishonestly without knowing? This self-doubt is exactly what they expect in order to maintain power and control over you. This is a subtle psychological strategy that manipulators use to make you feel guilty, even when you have done nothing wrong. So how can you recognize when someone is projecting instead of making reasonable statements? It's important not only to pay attention to isolated situations but to look for patterns of repeated behavior. Are the accusations something they constantly bring up, even after you've clearly explained that you've done nothing wrong? Do you find yourself always having to defend against unreasonable accusations despite having evidence to the contrary? This question may be the clearest sign that they are using you as a scapegoat for their dishonesty and instability. The best response to projection is not endless defensiveness but calm observation and analysis of the situation. Instead of hastily denying accusations like, "No, I'm not lying to you," you can subtly but effectively shift your response. You might say, "I notice that you're concerned about dishonesty in our relationship." Instead of taking the blame for something you didn't do, you're shifting the conversation from accusations to discussing their insecurity and behavior. This not only protects you from manipulation but also helps you confront the issue assertively and rationally. The key revelation is the relationship between projection and irresponsibility. People who habitually project are often very difficult to hold accountable for their actions. They blame others, avoid responsibility, and deny the truth rather than facing the issue maturely. This lack of responsibility is not only a sign of weakness but also a major red flag about their character. If you notice this, be cautious, as it's a sign of someone who cannot be trusted and will always try to manipulate you to achieve their own goals. The idealization and devaluation cycle is a subtle tactic that manipulators use to create deep dependency and control over you. One of their most dangerous tricks is making you feel like you are the special, unique person in their life. When the idealization phase begins, everything seems perfect. They will shower you with attention and praise, as if you are the center of their universe. The things they say make you feel understood, loved, and valued. You begin to believe that you have found the perfect person, the ideal partner, a relationship that couldn't be better. However, as the idealization phase slowly comes to an end, something changes suddenly and mysteriously. Suddenly, everything you do seems wrong. The qualities they once admired now become things they despise. The affectionate gestures and actions you take to care for them are now seen in a negative light. One can't help but wonder, how can everything change so quickly? This is the manipulator's tactic. They want you to feel lost, confused, and to start doubting yourself. They want you to struggle to regain the approval and love they once gave you. This devaluation phase not only emotionally hurts you but also puts you in a state of mental turmoil. You begin to feel like you're no longer yourself, as if nothing you do is ever enough. This sudden change in their behavior is actually a strategy to create deeper control, making you feel like you always have to try to deserve them. And when you feel like you're on the verge of breaking down, they reappear, once again, in the hoovering phase, a return full of promises and apologies. They will paint a new picture of idealization, restoring all the praise and attention that was lost, making you feel special again. Things will start over, and this cycle continues to repeat. Why do they do this? Because they never want you to leave them, and the more you depend on them, the easier it is for them to control your life. This cycle is not only emotional manipulation but also a way for them to keep you trapped in a whirlwind of uncertainty and pain. The important thing is that you recognize this cycle as soon as it begins, so you can protect yourself from getting stuck in this toxic relationship. When you realize that you've become trapped in the idealization and devaluation cycle, the first step towards emotional freedom is to clearly identify this pattern. It's not your issue, it's the manipulator's issue. Their behavior reflects their instability and insecurity, not a deficiency in you. When you can recognize this, you will feel a tremendous sense of liberation. This awareness will help you separate yourself from the manipulative behavior and stop caring about pleasing them. But how do you break free from this cycle? It's a painful process but a necessary one to restore your self-esteem and correct perception of your self-worth. The first step in the healing process is to detach your feelings from the manipulator's validation. Don't let them be the only measure of your value. Understand that you don't need them to feel valuable. The euphoric emotions during the idealization phase are temporary and deceptive, while the devaluation phase is cruel and unjust. As you begin to detach from their judgments, you will start rebuilding your self-worth and trust in yourself. This doesn't mean you have to abandon the relationship, but you must realize that no one else but you, has the right to decide your worth and perception of yourself. Reconnect with yourself, rediscover the hobbies and dreams you once neglected. This will not only help you understand yourself better but will also make you realize that you deserve a life not distorted by manipulation. And most importantly, throughout this process, don't forget to protect yourself. When you realize you are falling into the idealization and devaluation cycle, immediately set clear boundaries. Unhealthy relationships will not change just because you change. You need to take control of the situation and start rebuilding your emotional freedom. Be strong, be steadfast, and remember that the truth about your value doesn't depend on others, but is eternal and exists within you. When you face toxic relationships, understanding the complexity of the idealization and devaluation cycle is the first step in protecting yourself. Such relationships are not merely a psychological game, they are destructive power games, designed to pull you into an inescapable vortex. But the key is realizing that this cycle can be broken if you know how to identify it early. When you recognize that you are falling into this trap, you not only understand the behavior of others more clearly, but you also begin to rebuild your ability to protect yourself. Awareness is the first step, but to truly break free from this cycle, you must take action. Setting clear boundaries and consistently enforcing them is the key to protecting yourself from manipulation. Don't allow yourself to become a puppet in the hands of manipulators. Be firm in saying no when necessary and maintain healthy limits to protect your emotions and mental health. Sometimes, this may feel difficult and inconvenient, but remember that it is the most important step to create space for emotional freedom and the respect you deserve. One of the most important tools in breaking free from this cycle is support. Rebuilding and strengthening your support network, friends, family, colleagues, is essential in helping you maintain stability and confidence. When you have people around you who understand and respect you, they will help you stay grounded, even during the toughest times. A support network not only makes you feel safe but also provides the encouragement you need to overcome challenges. Furthermore, listen to your intuition. When you feel uneasy or that something is wrong, don't ignore those feelings. Intuition is a powerful tool that your body and mind use to warn you of danger. When something feels off in a relationship, trust those feelings and treat them as a warning sign. Don't justify or explain someone else's behavior. The truth is, if their actions make you feel unsafe, then they are the ones with the problem, not you. Finally, remember that the healing process takes time. Breaking free from a toxic relationship is not an immediate process. Sometimes, creating distance gradually may be safer than a confrontational break. Be patient and compassionate with yourself, as healing is not a straight path, but a long journey. What's important is that you continue to trust in your value and capabilities, and remember that you deserve to be loved and respected in every relationship. The secret to avoiding getting stuck in manipulative relationships is recognizing your self-worth and knowing that you deserve authentic, meaningful connections. You are not weak or foolish for being targeted. On the contrary, it is your valuable qualities, such as empathy, openness, and the ability to trust, that create a strong attraction for manipulators. They are not drawn to you because of a deficiency, but because you can offer them what they need, unconditional love and trust. However, remember that these qualities must be coupled with wisdom and awareness to avoid being exploited. Protecting yourself is not an act of lacking compassion. On the contrary, it is an expression of respect for yourself and the values you bring. You do not have to reject love or care, but you must know when your affection and trust are being abused. If you overlook warning signs, you are giving away your peace and potential to someone who does not deserve it. You deserve to live a life with healthy relationships and a future filled with genuine connections. When you realize that you are stuck in a manipulative relationship, that is when you have the right to reclaim your power. Identifying the signs is not a sign of weakness, but a wake-up call. You no longer allow yourself to be dragged into psychological games. Instead, you are actively protecting yourself. In doing so, you not only protect your inner peace but also safeguard your ability to trust and love wisely. Not everyone deserves your unconditional trust, and once you begin to understand that, you will find true freedom. The journey towards emotional safety and authentic connection will not be easy, but it is a journey worth taking. You have begun to recognize the warning signs, and that is the first step toward liberation. True peace of mind and the ability to trust rightly are not easy to achieve, but with persistence and wisdom in every decision, you can build relationships based on respect and genuine love. And when you are ready to embrace change, YouTube will send you a video perfectly suited to reinforce your knowledge and self-protection. Click on the suggestion on the screen and continue your journey. You deserve real connections, where there is no manipulation or control. Remember, you can create a better future for yourself, and every step toward awareness brings you closer to the freedom and peace you truly deserve.